Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. Let's catch the lightning bolt, shall we? This is one of the most open, surreal spaces that I ever come and inhabit, and I am so grateful for you being here and co-creating this with me, because this is an energetic connection here that allows us each to go further and further. And what I want to talk about with you today is something that I think is going to help disentangle you from some of the things that are holding you back, and to help you open yourself more to money and relationships and happiness and love, and to all the things that you want. Now, how could we possibly do that in a fairly brief podcast episode? Well, it all becomes a function of your agreement. And so if you are halfway listening, if you're distracted by something, if you are looking for an answer, if you're thinking that you know what I'm going to say and you already are putting meaning to that, then that's okay. There's no right or wrong here, because there's multiple truths. We're just always pulling from a parallel reality, and so there has to be multiple truths. But take that on as you are already in this moment agreeing to what your capacity is. And we have these certain roles that we play and the way that we show up in life, where our level of capacity has already been set, and we just continue to show up at that same level all the time. And then we go, why is nothing changing over there? Well, we all know that all this is a function of the internal state of being, and the conversation and everything starts within. I think one of the things that we can step into even greater responsibility for is to be more involved, if you will, in the frequency that we are on, that then allows us to step into opportunities that are available there, and to step into that choosing who we are in that moment. Now, we don't actually, and this is where it gets kind of wonky, we don't actually get to choose our frequency. Our frequency has nothing to do with the way that we feel. You might feel good and be in a certain frequency, but you might also feel not good, and you could still be in that frequency. It really has to do with your access and what you are open to. And it all goes back to love, because the only energy that exists in the universe is love. And so everything is a transmutation of that. And so we are transmuting the energy of love into whatever abundance we choose, be it money, be it wealth, be it, showing up for someone else that we love. I said money and wealth. Money, wealth, because money would be income, wealth would be sort of long-term assets. It could even be food. It could even be health. I mean, it could be so many things. You're defining the love, you're defining the abundance that you get, and you're also setting your capacity based on what you can receive. And I say can, but it's really comes down to what you're willing to receive. You are receiving money at the level that you have the capacity to receive money. You are receiving love at the level that you have the capacity to receive love. And that's just the way that things are working. Now, our life is a holistic system. And so when we sort of free things up in one area, we also free things up in the other area, if we're willing to actually allow that to happen. We could stay locked up in the realm of money for a lifetime, because we're more in a relationship with our values and being safe and all of the things. And then we could still go out and do great things in the world. And that might even be happening to you to a certain degree in your life. But then people ask the question, how can I be giving all this value and not receiving money? Well, therein lies the answer. So money, I see it as a circle. So the top half of the circle is giving and the bottom half of the circle is receiving. There's just brokenness on different points at the circle. And what we're doing is we are seeing and we are releasing the brokenness within those. Now, and if you've been in any of the SI programs, you'll know, you've probably heard me say, I don't believe in going back and fixing all this shit in the past, because for me, I don't like the long road. What I would rather do, and what I believe is how you actually live outside of time, is you sort of pluck. Like, I think of it like I'm picking myself up and I'm putting myself over here, that ego version of myself. And when I do that, that is allowing me the space and the stage for the new me to step in. I already have the new me in my mind, because that is all just it is the who would I need to be the self expression of what I want in my life. It's all the other stuff that gets in the way, that you can't focus on the other stuff that gets in the way, because then you're just creating more of it. So what you can do is you can be the observer. The observer has the power to pick up and to put over here. And when you take this, you can do this in a general way in your life, but you can also take this to a micro level. Now, let's tie this into frequency. So, something that's helpful for me is when I sort of get into the entanglements of what my circumstances are. It could be a relationship, it could be, it could be a money thing, it could be anything that's going on in your life, any circumstance that you are in resistance with, that you don't want it to look that way, and you feel like if it would change, everything would be okay. We all have these. So that's the contrast that you have in your life. And that is, it's presenting itself to you. It's the mirror, right? And so you get to choose your level of entanglement, which is directly related to your capacity to show up, to transmute your energy, your energetic currency, into whatever abundance you want to receive from that. Now, you can't receive lack. That's why whenever you have a circumstance and you're waiting, then waiting is lack energy. So all you're doing is the circumstances continuing to be out there. And by you bringing it back into your mind and going, that's still there. I don't like it. Oh, this is what I don't like about it. Oh, here's Wednesday. Here's another thing I don't like about it. You are giving your source energy into continuing to create that you don't like. Now, your conditioned self goes, well, I need to be responsible. I need to look at this. If it's something to do with money and you don't have enough money, you're like, I need to look at this. I have to, right? You feel locked into it. So you're locked into the creation of more of what you don't want. And the new version of you would never choose that. Once you see that, then you escape the illusion of it, and you see that the only way to quote unquote fix it is to shut that version down. And basically, it's the equivalent. Sometimes I tell me this. I'm like, shut the F up. Like, just move over to the side of the room. I'm talking about emotionally, and leave it. Now, we don't want to do that. And what happens is my mind will come back to it, come back to it, come back to it. So I'll give you an example that just happened to me last night. So we started our mastermind. We have the last mastermind of the year that just started last night. It is our biggest mastermind we've ever run. I'm so excited about it. I went through all the celebration forms from the last mastermind, all their wins, all their takeaways, everything they loved. And then I went through the applications for the new mastermind for all of these people. I took all of this in, and then I let it go. And then I sat for a meditation and I did some of the processes that I do so that I can show up as just a conduit, basically. Just, I have a specific design that I take people through the mastermind, which is highly, highly effective. That structure is always going to be there, but the mastermind itself, I allow it to design itself from within, so internal out, based on the energy of the people that are there. What are they seeking? And how can I best show up for them? Because the answers are within them. I'm a guide. Now, what happens is these masterminds get better and better. Every single time my team and I say the same thing. Oh, this is the best mastermind we've ever had. Every time we say that. And so I've just gotten to the point where, we talked about it yesterday. We just laugh about it. Now we have returning students who continue to go through these masterminds. What was wonderful is they spoke up yesterday and said, I am here because of this mastermind. I am the new version. I am blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting because even when they share about themselves now, they don't share from their circumstances anymore. And I wouldn't have even really probably connected this unless I experienced it in person. Isn't that true? We actually have to experience things to truly embody them. But listening to them, other people are like, here's my story and here's what I want to solve. Here's what I want to fix. They, having already been through at least one 12-week round of this, are like, here's what's going on in my life. Here's what I've done. Here is what's coming into my life. Here's what I'm enjoying and experiencing. Here's the incredible return on my investing account. Here's what I love. Here's my dog. I'm at the beach. I'm camping, da, da, da. Like they're living it and they're in it. But the difference is, without being prompted, they're speaking from a new starting place. Now, why is this important? Because your starting place is effectively your frequency, and that determines everything about your life. So, if we say general, then what happens is you see a lot of people out there who are happy. Great things happen to them, right? I don't think that's an accident. My grandfather, for as far as I can see and for what everyone else can see that knew him, he was awake. So I used to watch him as a child. I listened in the silence and I watched him move around through the world. And I especially watched the way that he showed up in situations where I saw other people in the family ranting and raving, and I watched the way that he showed up. Now, he was on a specific frequency. Now, that frequency is a direct relation to how needy you are, to be just blunt about it. If you need money, then how are you going to be on this open frequency without artificially placing yourself there? Because you don't have that safety and you don't have that well-being checked off when it comes to feeling financial freedom. So you're always sort of in the gap, and that's probably why you're here. The spiritual investor, the whole foundation of it is pulling energy down from the universal world and taking action from that starting place in the 3D world. And so basically we're living in the bridge and we're always walking the bridge. And as you get better and better at this, then what happens is you begin to choose and you begin to have jurisdiction over when you're walking back and forth on the bridge and not getting stuck on the other side. Because what's happening with most people is they're getting stuck on the 3D side of the bridge and they feel out of control. And then what happens is they get stuck there so long that they feel exhausted. And then they blame the situation and the circumstances and continue to put more and more and more energy in. Now, we all have access to energy. You can't even say more or less because there's no measurement in the universal world. We have access to energy. Our frequency is the state of allowing that is going to allow that energy to come through. If someone walks up to your door that you haven't seen in a long time and you love them and you're so excited about it, all of a sudden it's like the gates fly open and openness comes from within you. You feel, you allow that love to go through you. And what's happening is you, through whether it's the conversations with them, it could be, a hug, it could be whatever. What's happening is that love has gone up in terms of the state of the allowing. But here's the thing, you're still you feeling you. You're just allowing your openness of yourself is going through and it's moving through them and back to you. So the circle is always happening. It's you in a relationship with you. And that situation, for some reason, you have decided you love and you're really open to. Now, you see this in relationships when you're when you're a couple and you are having problems. Well, what's happening is both of you are to a certain degree shutting down. And then you're trying to figure out how to fix all this stuff from a place of starting of shutting down. Now, going back to the starting point of what are you really looking for? What do you really want out of this? And then solely coming from there is the powerful place to be from. But what happens is it becomes difficult for you to drop the past. This is one of the practices that we have inside of the mastermind. And I would say it is one of the most profound foundational practices that we have. I actually took them through the meditation yesterday. Every time I do it, it's different because every time I do it live, it incorporates the energy of whoever is there in the room. But it is a way that they are able to completely drop the past, at least momentarily. And when they do, and they feel the lightness of that, then they're actually sort of what it feels like is you're in the same building, but you've moved up to a different floor. Now that is frequency, it's access. And it's not that they feel better. That's great that they feel better. The frequency shift is reflected back in the way that what they're saying in regards to what they now have access to. There was tears, there was smiles, there was, a lot of different things going on because as I told them, energy, it wants to go somewhere. And so energy is being released. And so you have to, at that stage, not get into what does this mean? What should I do next? All of that. No, it's just a state of being. You are in nothingness when you have no past, because when you have no past, then you are in the now and you're creating new. So can we live our life that way is what we're trying to figure out. Now, I said I was going to use an example from me, right? So that I've described to you just last night. That was my experience in the mastermind call. Now, guess where that put me? It was so elevated. I was so open, and it was just like, oh my God, I'm feeling this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing in the world. Everything was just there. Now, I kid you not, I get off the call, I pick up my phone and I go to the kitchen because this was one of the ones that was later in the evening. I go to the kitchen to make something to eat. I look at my phone and I see a text message that I don't like at all. All of a sudden, I go back into the past. I go back into my stories and my frequency, even though I don't know this for certain because I don't determine my frequency. It dropped because I suddenly didn't have the level of access that I had. Not only did I not have the level of access I had a few moments before, but even within this microcosm of my life, I had limited access. I wanted so badly to say something back to this person that really isn't even me. So what happened is I caught it. And that is what you're doing. You're not here to avoid circumstances. What you're here to live as the observer and to get better and better and to get faster in the 3D timeline to being able to bring yourself back. It is a return. Like the meditation I do, 20 minutes, it's return to meditation. It's return to beingness. All life is it is a return. And a return does not actually include measurement. The reason that it is helpful, if you will, to be able to return more quickly is because you're doing less damage. Abraham Hicks talks about like the car at the top of the hill in San Francisco, because San Francisco has all these hills. And she's like, if you can catch the car when it first starts to go down, then you're okay. But if it's already going down that hill, and then it's got that momentum, you're not going to stop it. Momentum is one of those powerful forces in the universe. We use momentum inside the Spiritual Investor. I teach you how to actually swap time for momentum so that you can harness that power. But all day long, momentum is also working against us in the other way, right? We're all carrying a sword that we wield both ways. Now, I was able to recognize that and bring myself back. Did I fully come back? Probably not. How did I come back? I actually realized and reminded myself, which in that moment was the same thing, that it's still just me against me, or it's me for me, or it's me feeling me. There's still, even with that text message, it's still me and me, because I, in that moment, was in a relationship with what I thought that person meant and what they were doing to me and how they were not showing up, how I needed them to show up. Key word there, needed. Your frequency has an indirect relationship with your neediness, right? Like the more you need, the lower your frequency is going to be, right? So we can need things in life. Believe me, I'm not saying that we don't go out here and need things, but we can put them out as a desire. And then when we see, because everything's an invite, when we see that that comes back into our space and it doesn't kind of fit the bill, we get two choices. We either take responsibility and say, what's going on here doesn't fit the bill. And we're not taking responsibility if we're blaming someone else, by the way. That's just ego. We could take responsibility and say, I love you, but that's not what I am feeling like is right for me right now. That is love. Or we can look at ourselves and go, I feel awful right now, and I'm going to let this pass through me because there is something there's energy that is stuck, and I'm going to utilize this opportunity to let it pass through me. Guess what? It will not pass through you if you are still connecting it somehow to the other person. It can't, because your energy's out here. So I chose the latter, but what happens is this is not like a linear path. So then it comes back into the space, it comes back into the space, it comes back into the space. So then what happens is I create a practice. I create a practice based on this presentation, this mirror, if you will, that has been shown to me. My practice is, the goal of it, if you will, is I know what I'm here to do in the world. I'm here to show up as a conduit and to have information flow through me that is helpful and useful and helps you to expand into greater consciousness, to have more wealth in your life, to become financially free so that you can go out there and do whatever you want to do in the world. Now, that in turn, I don't have to think about me, because that in turn takes care of me too. All of it does. And it happens, and it's beautiful and it's magical. And my team, we sit back and we're like, oh my God, can you believe this is happening? All I do is I return to why I'm here. Now, if I want to do that, then I would also be responsible for managing my frequency, no matter what is going on in my life. What has happened is that as these groups and as my reach gets further in the world, I mean, I'm now on some big podcasts. I'm being interviewed. I just got back from Austin. I had 3 there. It's wonderful. I'm so grateful. Like, I'm writing the book, like all the essence of this is getting bigger, right? It's not me that's getting bigger. It is the information itself. And I am getting more open for the information to flow through. The way that I honor that, if you will, is I look at it in terms of how can I be more open. When I'm in the groups like last night, I'm so inspired and in gratitude that these wonderful people have come to line up with me. What it does is it raises my standard in terms of my responsibility. And so my responsibility to show up for them becomes greater because it's all bigger. And then what happens is I'm able to take that back into my life and go, this text message is so small in comparison to what I'm doing in the world. Therefore, I choose to not place my focus and attention on it. The way I do that is I pick it up, I depersonalize it, I pick it up and I put it over here. And in that space, because there becomes a void, if you don't put something in that space, it can be silence too, by the way. Silence is a tool for you, but something's going to come into that. And so what I did is I just did something that was mindless. I just played cards. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I turned on a Netflix series, right? Something that is going to kind of go into that. And I'm sure that you have your toolbox as well that you pull from, and I'm constantly pulling different ones. But what I want you, if this resonates with you, is that it's actually not about you. It's actually about your frequency and the access that you have. And the more that you can see that you are simply a frequency, and so are all these other people and circumstances out there that you feel like are doing something to you. They're frequencies too. And that if you want to elevate your frequency, you must disconnect the energy that you have going to those frequencies. I see it as entanglements, like almost like strings going out, like little electronic colorful strings. And what I do is I have a walking meditation I do, and I cut those entanglements. Um, and so the more that I do that, even if I have to return to it, because life truly is, if you want to live at the level of a yogi and you want to be fully open for all types of abundance and be a multimillionaire on an effortless basis and be, out there in the world sharing your gifts, you are going to be in a state of being where you are returning and returning. And that practice itself, that's why the SI method, which is the foundation of all this that I'm talking about, it takes you through a 5-part process. That's why it is a concentric cone. And so as you go through it and you get better and better at it, the circle gets smaller and smaller because it is your level of effort that gets smaller and smaller. And when you're not putting effort into something, you're also not having to think about it. When you're not having to think about it, you're not having to rely on your ego, because your ego is the one that thinks about it. So you are plucking your ego out of your life and putting it over here. But the thing is, you're not deciding, because that's the thing. You can't decide what parts of your ego that you don't like and you want to get rid of, because then you're focused on them. You have to let the world show you, okay, Elizabeth, you feel bad about the text message. There is ego there. I have to allow it, because it's the self-expression of me that is even creating the reflection. So it still is me saying it to myself. But if I choose from my ego to go, like, let's say I go, I don't like this about me that I do in the world. I want to change that. Well, that's going to require effort. Instead, increase your capacity to listen. Go back to what's important, which is love. Unconditional love, like I am the, what do you call it, the cross of love in human design. And I think even if you're not, I think unconditional love is what we're all going towards. And so if I'm always returning to, am I in unconditional love? Probably not, because unconditional love is the highest state of being. Probably not. But can I get a little further to that? I've talked about the calibration of the frequency. Can I get a little bit more towards that? Then I'm focused on that. Then what I'm doing is I'm moving in the direction of more me being me. And the more that I am me being me, the more magnetism I have, the more effective I am in the world. And so this is all circling back to exactly the same thing. And when you create a practice out of this that includes joy, you have a structure, and you really you have a desire that is so important to you, that you have raised your standards and you have said, the time is now. This is the way I'm going to show up in the world. Then all of the circumstances around you, this is what's so ironic, all the circumstances around you will effectively change based on that new state of being, which fixes it all in an effortless way. So thank you for being here and listening. Thank you for being who you are. I love your messages. I get DMs from you about how this moves through you, how it affects your life. And I'm just so grateful for you. So, yeah, I'll see you next time.